Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back to Guys of Magic. This is Hunter, Steven, David, and Shane. Say what up, boys.
What's going on?
Hey.
What's up, nerds?
Welcome back to another edition of our Commander Grades video, where we go through and we kind of just talk about all of the legendary creatures that can be the face of a deck, and we give them a grade. This time we're doing the monocolored legendaries from March of the Machine. So, without further ado, I think we should just go ahead and start right away. The first one being the mom herself. This is Elesh Norn. Elesh Norn is 2 and 2 white for a 3/5 legendary creature, Phyrexian Praetor. It's got Vigilance. It says whenever a source an opponent controls deals damage to you or a permanent you control, that source's controller loses 2 life unless they pay 1. Also has another ability where you can pay 2 and a white, sacrifice 3 other creatures, exile Elesh Norn, then return it to the battlefield transformed under its owner's control, activate only as a sorcery. When it's transformed, it turns into the Argent Etchings. It is a saga. The first lore counter says incubate 2 5 times, then transform all incubator tokens you control. The second lore counter says creatures you control get +1/+1 and gain double strike until end of turn. And the third and final lore counter says destroy all other permanents except for artifacts, lands, and Phyrexians. Exile the Argent Etchings, then return it to the battlefield back to Elesh Norn. We'll start with David. David, what do we think of the mom, Elesh Norn?
I think that there's a lot going on with this card, but from a commander perspective, I'm not super high on it. The front half of the card is where I really want to focus on, just because I feel like the back half on pretty much all these Praetors is going to be like just added bonus. So like whenever I evaluate these, for the most part, I think that they're probably just going to be doing what's on the front. The Norn's Annex kind of effect is neat, but for the most part, I don't think it's going to be very impactful. Sure, it'll slow down like token decks, but that's about it. And aside from that, I mean, she's really not even that impressive of a body. In order to transform her, having those 3 other creatures in play and then exiling them out, like that is a very real cost. And then the backside of this card, although it is definitely powerful, I think that it's going to generate a lot of hate, and the front half is relatively low impact. So I'm actually not very high on Elesh Norn.
I kind
I think I
of
agree.
disagree.
Oh,
I look
wonder
at,
why
I
you
mean,
disagree then.
it looks like you said, Norn's Annex. I'm saying Ghostly Prison for my example, where you're trying to just get people not to attack you. But I don't know if losing 2 life is that big of a deal in Commander, as we've seen. But flipping this, I think is very powerful. Incubating is really cool. Those tokens flip immediately, so you're going to have 5 2/2s. If you're running this into, let's say, a Phyrexian Matters deck, this is pretty good.
At
But
the
then
same time,
she's
though,
so
like
expensive,
yeah,
right?
she's incredibly expensive. I mean, like this is a 7 mana spread out, and then
Yeah.
like you're destroying your board state. You're losing 4 creatures because you're going to lose Elesh Norn as well whenever she transforms into the saga. So like your board state is gone, and then you have this thing in play where it's like everybody is going to target you.
Yeah, because
Will it?
yeah, well, that ghostly prism effect you talked about won't be there anymore. He's got a bunch of 2/2s to block for you for the time being. They're
It's
gonna
true.
turn all their sights on you for that turn, and you're probably. I mean, sure, you get to lore counter 2, 3. That's great, but you're gonna be the threat, like David said, and they're gonna probably kind of look at you pretty hard.
I also don't really care much for the Ghostly Prison comparison because like Ghostly Prison taxes their mana. This really doesn't. I'm never going to pay 1. I'll lose 2 life. And in a game of Commander, that's nothing. Even if I'm attacking you with something like 3 creatures, losing 6 life, I'm probably going to deal significantly more than that to you. So it doesn't matter. It's not slowing me down.
It could, based on the fact that you'll eventually have 5 3/3s with double strike.
I want to know what Steven thinks.
I mean, good card, good. This card's nutty, dude. This card's fantastic. I mean, I love it with all my heart. I'll be dead honest with you.
Well, then you need
This
to
isn't
speak up earlier.
listen, I think for the first card, I just love hearing the opinions go around, and then I just come in and throw that bomb. You know what I mean? But no, this card's fucking great, man. I mean, is it expensive? I mean, sure, dude. I mean, whatever. It's 4 mana for a 3/5. And then at the end of the day, we're in white. And white, you can blink, you can basically make a shit ton of tokens, you can make mana with cards like Smothering Tithe and stuff like that. I mean, issues like with land tax, you can go search for mana. I think that this has no issue doing anything that you want it to do. I think this is going to be in the helm of a deck for sure. And once this flips, it's really going to just change the game. I mean, that third saga part is nuts, man.
I agree.
I disagree. I even think that if this thing pops, all that it really does is like it provided you with a couple of beaters, and that's not guaranteeing that they're going to get in. And then it gives you board wipe. That's cool. It's going to reset things. And I mean, obviously, you could be building around this so that it doesn't hurt you, but that's 3 turns and so much mana you've invested. Everybody's going to see that this is coming. Somebody's going to just drop a remove target enchantment, and then you're just done.
I still don't understand how you keep saying it's so much mana you invested. It's just 4 mana for a 3/5 that can sit there for a while. Then eventually you can. Let's say you have Elspeth's Son's Champion on the field. You just plus it 1, you get 3 1/1s. You sack them all. Flip this.
I still look
Seems
at it like
doable.
this card at its floor. This is a 7 mana to do a thing that is really
Mhm.
slow and going to take 3 turns. So I look at it like this. When this thing gets removed, because it will, it's going to sit back and you're never going to have it actually do its thing again because of the turn requirement on this.
Not necessarily. You can proliferate to add lore counters to it.
You want, sure.
I mean,
I think
all
it's
I'm going to
tough.
say, man, and this will be my last thought on this card, is coming from a set where we just got a whole bunch of proliferate effects and, Phyrexians, and coming into this current set where we're getting a lot of these incubate cards. I think that this card has only seen just a glimpse of what it can do, and it's just going to take off from here. Like, I'm really excited for this card. I think it's going to be really good.
We'll see.
Let's move on to the grades. We'll start with you, Steven. You're high on it. What are you giving it?
I'm going to give it a B.
Oh,
I'm not going there. I am going to give it a C. I'll say it's average.
I'm gonna
I
give it
love
a D.
I love how polarized we are with these. I agree with Shane. This is a D.
All right. So that average grade here is going to be a C. Moving on to Jin-Gitaxias. Jin-Gitaxias is 3 and 2 blue for a 5/5 legendary creature, Phyrexian Praetor. It's got Ward 2. It says whenever you cast a non-creature spell with mana value 3 or greater, draw a card. As another ability, we can pay 3 and a blue, exile Jin-Gitaxias, then return it to the battlefield transformed under its owner's control. Activate only as a sorcery and only if you have 7 or more cards in hand. When it's transformed, it turns into the Great Synthesis. It is a saga. The first lore counter says draw cards equal to the number of cards in your hand. You have no maximum hand size for as long as you control the Great Synthesis. The second lore counter says return all non-Phyrexian creatures to their owner's hands. And the third and final lore counter says you may cast any number of spells from your hand without paying the mana cost. Exile the Great Synthesis, returned as Jin-Gitaxias. Steven, we'll start with you.
Yeah, I'm not high on this one.
Why?
I love Mono Blue with all my heart, man. It is probably one of my favorites, but this is the one where I have an issue with the cost. This one's pricey. This one's very pricey. 5 mana when this comes down for a 5/5 is really good. I do like that. The ward is great. I like drawing a card, but at the end of the day, I don't think I'm going to draw a card when this hits the field. I'm probably investing most of my mana just to get this out. And then the next turn, I'm probably just going to flip it. So in my mind, the text above that, Exile Jin-Gitaxias, is basically flavor at that point. The sagas are really cool. I think every saga on the backs of these Praetors is basically what David said earlier, the bread and the butter here. This is the one for me that's more of a hate bearer than anything. I think this is the one that'll get removed before anything else.
I actually directly disagree with almost everything that you just said.
Yeah, no, that's how I felt on the last one with you.
I love
This is
the
gonna be
fact
a
that we are
wild
so
video.
different here. I mean, this one has ward. I know isn't necessarily super difficult to work around, but that is still a taxing effect. So this does have some built-in practice. It's got body on its own, and on the front face of this, it's cards. Plus, being mono, I don't think that having 100 more cards in hand is going to be difficult. This isn't going to blow up your board state or anything like that. And then just like the last card, whenever this thing does transform, it's going to be added upside. Now, I'm not the biggest fan of the Great Synthesis, actually, of I don't think that they're the bread and the butter. I think they're more of like a win-more stipulation. Jin-Gitaxias' front side, I think, much better than what we just saw.
I mean, I I can't disagree more. I mean, at the end of the day, there are so many cards in blue that just draw you cards. What's the point of paying 5 mana for a ward 2 that you have to cast something to draw a card? That's ridiculously like aggressive for me.
Because this is
Like,
turning
I'd rather
all
just
of
cast
your
like a Ristic Study or any like, and then just anybody that plays a card has to pay 1, or I have to draw, and then that taxes them 1 rather than 2, which is, I guess, a little bit worse. But I think that there are so many other effects in mono blue where this is just okay, cool. I get to cast a non-creature spell with mana value 3 or more, and then I get to draw a card. So now I have to spend 3 mana to draw a card. Like, there's so many things that you can do more better than that.
I don't think it's I have to spend 3 mana. It's every card I'm casting is cantripping. So now I'm getting those good
every
effects of, well, not every card, but like the cards that I want to
For the
cast.
most part, Hunter.
Yeah, it's like I built my deck in a way that I'm cantripping, and it's non-creature too. So it's like I can be dropping planeswalkers and drawing cards off my planeswalkers whenever I cast those.
I
Let's
mean,
be honest.
listen,
After turn 3, you're playing at least 3 drops every. Like I want to say every turn.
yeah, sure. Yeah, 100%. I completely agree with you. But like, it's still just to draw a card. Cool. Like,
It's not
I just
to
think
draw
that
a card.
it literally, you're paying 3 mana just to draw a card.
Oh,
That's
well,
literally what it is.
you're playing the card, and then you happen to get a free card.
Yeah, you're
Sure.
paying 3 mana for whatever effect you already wanted, and it also now draws you a card on top of that.
Cool. There are so many other cards that do that better. And I don't have to spend mana to do it.
Okay.
I look at it like this, man. You're gonna want to cast stuff to draw the cards, but if you want to flip, you got to keep the cards in your hand. So pick your poison.
I think all these flip commanders are going to be, or flip cards as commanders are weird in my eyes because they do seem really strong in the back. But I think this blue one, I kind of want it to be on the front for the most part. I guess you'd only flip it on the back when you need to clear the board, right? Because it returns all non-Phyrexians, and hopefully you're playing some Phyrexians, or I don't know. I feel like you would just keep this on the front side until you need that oh shit button.
You were literally just playing this card to get to the back. That's all
I
this card
totally
is.
disagree with all of these. I'm not playing any of these Praetors with any intention of ever hitting the back, with the exception of one of the Praetors.
All right.
I
Well,
mean,
we'll go to the
no.
commander grades. David, what are you giving this?
We're going to be completely different in opinions, Steven and I, throughout the course of this video. I'm going to give this a B.
Oh, and I'm going to flop it to a D like you did that last one.
It's crazy. David gave a mono blue card a B. That's crazy.
I'm still sticking with a C.
I'm gonna stick with a C as well, just because this card scares me.
Well, the average grade for Jin-Gitaxias is a C. Moving on to another Praetor. This is Sheoldred. Sheoldred is 3 and 2 black for a 4/5 legendary creature, Phyrexian Praetor. It's got Menace. It says when it enters the battlefield, each opponent sacrifices a non-token creature or planeswalker. It's got another ability where you can pay 4 and a black, exile Sheoldred, then return it to its battlefield transformed under its owner's control. Activate only as a sorcery and only if an opponent has 8 or more cards in their graveyard. When it's transformed, it turns into the True Scriptures. The True Scriptures is a saga. It has the first lore counter that says for each opponent, destroy up to 1 target creature or planeswalker that player controls. Second lore counter is each opponent discards 3 cards, then mills 3 cards. And the third and final lore counter says put all creature cards from all graveyards onto the battlefield under your control, then exile the True Scriptures and return it back as Sheoldred.
I'm really curious to see if David and I agree or disagree on this one.
You want me to go first then?
Yep.
Go first, Shane.
This one, I think, is going to be one that I will not focus on the front half, because the first time it comes in, that's great. But then I keep thinking that you're going to want it to be flip-flopped and back and forth, because that is just a once-time ability, right? So unless you're flickering her in mono black, you probably right?
When you flip it, you're still making people mill, so it's always going to have that ability to flip back, because
That's what I'm
your
saying,
opponent will always have 8 cards in their graveyard.
Yeah,
So-
I just mean like the other ones where we were talking about keeping it on its front half for the majority of the game, if not forever. This one, if I do play it as my commander, I'm probably going to be focusing on trying to get it on the back half and go back and forth.
Absolutely. And flipping it back and forth will destroy creatures every time.
I do
Yes,
want to
Dave?
interject real quick and kind of mention a counterpoint to what Hunter had just said. It's not going to always have the 8 in the graveyard. The third mode on the Saga is going to take the cards from the graveyard and put them onto the
Ooh,
battlefield.
that is true.
That's true. Don't get me wrong. But I was just saying that you're milling 3, so you can make people mill. So you're always going to have an ability to constantly get cards in the graveyard. I would run this as a discard kind of strategy. You're forcing people to get cards in the graveyard.
Yeah.
I would say mill, but mill's mostly blue, so discard.
All right, David, you want to go first or you want me to go first?
I'll let Hunter and Shane decide.
Okay.
David, go ahead and go first.
Yeah, I'll say, David, you go.
This is Fleshbag Marauder in your command zone, which I think is really cool. 5 mana is quite a bit, and I'm not super sold on the body of it. However, I love the fact that this is an ETB and not a cast. So any kind of flicker effect or blink effect just like gets this going over and over and over again. And I mean, there are ways to do it. I know that this is mono black, so it's like it's not the best color for it, but you could play cards like Conjurer's Closet. You can play the Sword of X and Y. I don't remember which one, but I know that there's one that flickers. And then you have all those other cards out there in black too that, like, if the creature would die this turn, return it back to the battlefield under your control. So like there's ways that you can get Sheoldred in and out of play like multiple times over the course of a single turn. And then the back half on this is just backbreaking. I mean, the third mode on that, I feel like, is probably just going to win you the game.
Yeah. Steven, what do you think now?
I think this card is awful.
God damn it.
And the reason why this card is awful is because every time I see this card, I'm going to want to kill it. This card is going to be the biggest hate bearer out of everything we've seen so far. And that's all that's bad about it. Other than that, this card is fucking great. Okay. Let me tell you something right now. I want to build this, but the only issue is that I'm going to build this just like Hunter and David were talking about. I'm building a shit ton of discard and a shit ton of reanimation. Like this is probably the only way to build it in my mind. You know, say something in the comments if you feel otherwise, but like this is the backside of this card is bad, just disgusting. But I do love the flashback Marauder in the command zone or Playcrafter, and I can say a different card too.
I don't think I'm going to build this one, but I do have a tier grid deck, and she's 100%
Oh,
going to go
God.
in it.
That
I was
deck
gonna
is
say tier grid
dumb.
is 100%. All right, let's move on to the grades. I'm going to give this a B. This one is a powerful one in my eyes.
I'll join you, man. I'm gonna throw a B at this bad boy girl too.
I think I'm going to give it a B as well.
Well, now I feel like a follower. I'm going to give it a B.
Look
okay,
at us
David.
being on the same page for the third card. This Sheoldred average is a B. Moving on to Orthion, Hero of Lavabrink. Orthion, Hero of Lavabrink is 3 and a red for a 3/3 legendary creature human soldier. As an ability where you can pay 1 and a red, tap it, create a token that's a copy of another target creature you control. It gains haste. Sacrifice it at the beginning of the next end step. Activate only as a sorcery. And it has another ability. You can pay 6 and 3 red, tap it, create 5 tokens that are copies of another target creature you control. They gain haste, sacrifice them at the beginning of the next end step, activate only as a sorcery. That is a back-breaking final ability there. You can get 5 copies of a creature.
This is like a more deterministic version of that Help Me David mono red deck.
I don't even remember her name. It's like Dina. It's not Dina.
Dina? Yeah.
Something the Wild Mage.
Honestly, I know that she can go way more bananas because of the like chance, but this kind of does similar things, but you know for a fact you're going to get the copies, which is cool.
Yeah, this one doesn't need to attack too, so.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
Shane, I'm sorry. Do you say you like this card?
I think it's good.
Okay, I'm just confused because every time there's a card with a shit ton of mana in its text, you just immediately hate it.
Well, the second part is whatever.
I mean, I kind of look at it like this. This is a value engine. It's going to sit around. It does the same thing as like, what is that enchantment that is running literally every format at this point? The Fable of the Mirror Breaker. I mean, that's kind of what this does in your command zone. So you're going to be able to copy your best thing, take advantage of any like ETB effects. You don't have to worry about whether or not your creature is going to survive swinging into combat because it's a token that you don't care about, and it's going to die anyways. So this just helps you to beat in. And yeah, I know it has a second ability that costs 1 million mana, but like if you ever get to the point where that is relevant, that's probably going to kill somebody.
Yep, I agree.
That's true. I like, anything with an ETB too, just to make 5 tokens of that. That would be probably game.
ETB
Or
or that red dragon that
I was
rolls.
about to say at
Yeah.
sushi.
Oh, at sushi, yeah, that one too. Yeah.
I was gonna say at sushi.
Cares about dying, yeah.
Whenever it dies, if the legend rule happens, you can make however many treasures you want. 3 times 4, 12 treasures. Or you can draw off of at sushi. That'd be cool too.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think
like this-
Orthion is pretty good.
Orthion seems good.
Orthion seems okay.
You
all you
want
got,
to
Steven?
elaborate?
Man, it's so aggressive, man. It is so aggressive. I mean, don't get me wrong, dude. I know 4 mana for this isn't that bad just because at the end of the day, sure, you have to tap to use it, but there's so many fucking haste effects in red, it's not even funny. I'm looking at that 9 mana tap, create 5 tokens, and that is game breaking. You could really fuck something up with that ability, but it's just, ooh, 9 mana. That's just, ooh, it hurts.
There's a really cool card in red that's gets you a lot of treasure.
I think I know that one, dude.
Yeah, it's a good
Depending
one.
on like hand size, right? That's something like that, right?
There's a lot of really good cards in red that give you a
I
lot
know. He's giving him
treasures.
shit.
Hand size. You mean amount of artifacts on the field?
Oh, that one too. I'm thinking of we're thinking of different. Wow, look at that. There's so many different ways to do it. We're thinking of different
Yeah,
cards.
there you go. Copy your dockside. Copy your ancient. What is it? Ancient copper dragon.
That one's good too. Shit.
Yeah. But yeah. Let's move on to the grades. I'm giving this a B.
Damn. Are we gonna do B's
Thank
back to
you.
back?
Oh, no, I don't want to do it, B. I
What?
want to
Just
get
do what you want to
back-to-back
do.
Bs, dude.
Just do what you want to do. I'm gonna give it a B too.
David, what are you giving it?
I'm gonna give it a B.
All right, well, I guess I'll be that guy.
You gonna
B.
bring it down? Oh, okay, sick.
Well, this average here is going to be a B. Moving back on to the Praetors, we got Urabrask. Urabrask is 2 and 2 red for a 4/4 legendary creature, Phyrexian Praetor. It's got first strike. It says whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, Urabrask deals 1 damage to target opponent. Add a red. You could pay 1 red, exile Urabrask, then return it to the battlefield transformed under its owner's control. Activate only as a sorcery and only if you've cast 3 or more instant or sorcery spells this turn. When it's transformed, it turns into the Great Work. The Great Work is a saga. The first lore counter on it says the Great Work deals 3 damage to target opponent and each creature they control. The second lore counter says create 3 treasure tokens. And the third and final lore counter says until end of turn, you may cast instant and sorcery spells from any graveyard. If a spell cast this way would be put into a graveyard, exile it instead. Exile the Great Work, then return it transformed as Urabrask. This one is not the best, I would say.
Wow. That's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
Why do you think so, Hunter?
I think this is like, how impactful is 1 damage to 1 opponent?
Well,
I think you were focusing on the absolute worst part of this card.
Hey, we've all been talking about how the front sides are better, are we not?
That is still the worst part of the front
yeah,
side.
the front side gives you mana.
It does give you 1 mana.
Yeah, it's true.
Talk to me then. Tell me what's good about this, Shane.
I don't want to let David talk.
No, Shane, I actually want to hear what you
Okay,
have to
fine.
say about this first.
I honestly do think that 1 isn't like, if you're gonna build this in a way that you're gonna maybe pinging people, sure, whatever. But then also you could be doing the spell casting, flinging, getting mana to pay for bigger things, and then the backside again is a big thing. But I think the front side is pretty good.
I look at this card like this is a card made for standard. I don't see it really made for anything else. Correct me if I'm wrong there, David.
I mean, it's really good in standard. You're right.
That's kind of interesting because whenever I hear of this card, I know that the CEDH community was all over this. Like,
Hold it.
so my thought here being is the ability for it to add that extra mana essentially means that you can chain things together. Red already has access to a ton of really good cards whenever it comes to like ritual effects, or whenever it comes to like if you want to try and storm off or combo off. That way you're just like cycling through this never-ending cycle of casting things. And with him generating mana, I mean, you have the potential to cast not just the 3 spells per turn, but dozens. And then, I mean, on top of that, in the case you do end up transforming him, which I feel he's probably the easiest out of all the Praetors to transform, the backside being able to cast things from your opponent's graveyards, you're going to have access to their tutors, you're going to have access to their board wipes, you're going to have access to whatever kind of situational thing that you need. And all of those are going to be adding red mana to your mana pool too.
You
Here's
just
my
gotta
problem
remember.
with that,
You gotta
though.
remember though. Wait. Oh, you gonna mention the part that you need to have access to those colors?
You do need access to those colors.
Yeah.
And I get it. It creates the 3 treasure tokens, so you do have access to whatever. But it does not say you can cast it for any mana of any color.
No, you can't. But I mean, like, there's still tons of ways for you to be able to make other colors of mana. I mean, this is a mono red commander. There's mono red it's the best color whenever it comes to treasure production just naturally.
True.
Yeah, didn't we just talk about
Treasures,
a
yes.
card that just comes down and makes treasures for artifacts and stuff like that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we did. I don't know.
What do you think of this card, Steven?
This card's great, man. Why are we talking about it?
That's great.
That's
Shouldn't we?
because that's what we do. We talk about cards.
Yeah, we just spent so long talking about great cards. I love this card, man. 4 mana for 4 first strike, and I mean, the 1 damage to target opponent is, I mean, I get it. I mean, I understand that point on it, Hunter, but that, like David said, that is the worst thing to concentrate on this card. Adding a red every time you cast an instant or sorcery, and there's so many 1 mana spells. My favorite part about this is applying any kind of doubling damage effect or tripling damage effect, which we've seen in red and just got reprinted in this set as well. Easy to flip, and then, I mean, at the end of the day, the 3 treasures are really good. Obviously, you're just trying to get to that 3rd saga, but I mean, it's really good. I think that if you build this, obviously, you're building around the fact that you're going to have to create treasures, which in this color, you're not going to have an issue.
Let's move on to the grades. What are you giving it, Steven?
I'm going to give this a B. It's really good.
I am going back down to C. I understand what you guys are saying. It's still average in my eyes.
I'm going to give this a B. I don't quite think it's at an A for me, but it's definitely a very powerful card.
I'm gonna give this a B as well.
Well, Urabrask gets the average grade of a B. Moving on to the green creatures. First up, Surrak and Goreclaw. Surrak and Goreclaw is 4 and 2 green for a 6/5 legendary creature, human bear. It's got trample. It says other creatures you control have trample. And whenever another non-token creature enters the battlefield under your control, put a +1/+1 counter on it. It gains haste until end of turn.
Man, bear, pig.
There's no pig.
There's no pig. Just man and bear.
That's what I was saying, dude. Missing 1 card type.
Team goes trample. That's all I got from this.
That's good. That's good. Good job, Hunter.
I mean,
That's what it does. Gives the team
trample and haste.
Gives when the creature comes in, it gets a counter and haste.
Mm-hmm.
I have a very not biased, but like narrow-minded view on this card so far, because I'm sure some of us here have also watched other videos where this card was being played, and there was a pretty mean like bear tribal deck that went off with this as the commander. So this card could do work, dude.
Yeah, giving big stuff trample is always great.
Not even big stuff, dude. Just giving. Yeah, like, you're right. Big stuff trample is important, but in a bear tribal kind of deck, it could be insane.
David?
Yeah, I don't see this as just big stuff. Chances are the big stuffs probably are going to be big enough and possibly already have trample. So this is just like a value engine for all your creatures. You're going to play this in the mono green stompy deck, and it's going to turn all your stuff on. And I love the fact that it gives you things haste, because like your opponents really can't plan effectively around blocking with this. Blocking so long as you're playing this. Because I mean, if you drop like 2 or 3 creatures in a turn, you're going to be able to swing in for a ton of damage. They're probably going to be pretty decent size considering they're going to get buffed off this too. My only kind of gripe with this card is that it's relatively expensive at 6 mana. It is in mono green, so like having access to that makes me feel a little bit more comfortable playing this card. But I don't know. This definitely strikes me as a card that like you can't sleep on this.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to agree with you, man. I do love this card. The 6 mana doesn't worry me at all. This is mono green. That's what green does best. The fact that this has trample and essentially everything else on your board will have trample when this comes down, and the creatures you play will have trample, and they grow in size. There's so many growth effects in green that are just enchantment based, that are just staying on the board, that this is something that I think is mediocre until it's not, if that makes sense. I think that, this card, you won't really stare at too much until it's too late. So, I don't know.
Yeah, getting that damage in is super easy to do with this card. Let's move on to the grades. Shane, what are you giving it?
I've seen it be powerful, but it also kind of seems like a meme. I think I'm just going to give it a C.
Oh, no, you said it.
What, the meme?
Yeah, that just
Sorry.
increased my grade.
Sorry.
No, it's fine.
What are you giving it, Steven?
God damn it, I'm going to give it a B now. Any kind of card that's memey, I give a B. I love meme decks, dude.
I mean, I'm not gonna go that high. I'm gonna go with a C.
I'm going to go with the C as well.
The average grade for Surrak and Goreclaw is a C.
Shane
Moving on
did
to
it.
the final card we're talking about. This is the last of the Praetors as well. This is Vorinclex. Vorinclex is 3 and 2 green for a 6/6 legendary creature, Phyrexian Praetor. It's got trample and reach. It says when Vorinclex enters the battlefield, search your library for up to 2 forest cards. Reveal them, put them into your hand, then shuffle. It has another ability where you pay 6 and 2 green, exile Vorinclex, then return it to the battlefield transformed under its owner's control. Activate only as a sorcery. When it's transformed, it turns into the Grand Evolution. The Grand Evolution is a saga. The first lore counter on it says mill 10 cards. Put up to 2 creature cards from among the milled cards onto the battlefield. The second lore counter says distribute 7 +1/+1 counters among any number of target creatures you control. And the final and third lore counter says until end of turn, creatures you control gain pay 1. This creature fights target creature you don't control. Exile the Grand Evolution, then return it to the battlefield, transformed back into Vorinclex. I'm kind
I
of
don't want to go first.
I'm kind of sad that Vorinclex's ability now is just ramp.
Yeah.
Used to be so powerful. And he just goes and gets you some forests.
What do you think, Steven? You like playing green?
I do like playing green.
Yeah.
I mean, at the end of the day, is his new ability on this card great? No, but it's a 5 mana 6/6 for trample and reach, so that's already statted really good. And then when it comes into the battlefield, you get to search for those 2 forest cards. If nobody at the table knows what the back of this card does, I don't think they'll kill it. But the very next turn, they're gonna fucking regret it. Because I think once this flips, it is fucking terrifying. I mean, milling 10 cards in mono green isn't always the best. I mean, there is recursion, but like not to the standard where like a green black deck would be. But putting 2 cards on the battlefield is really good. I don't really care for the last ability, the pay 1 target creature fights. It's whatever, but this card was very meh for me. I don't know.
Shane, what do you think of this card?
I think that it's slow and it's not Vorinclex, and that sure you get to the back, you get 2 cards. I think I like the 7 counters a lot. That seems good. I guess you can't knock the fighting. I get that it won't deal damage to your opponents, but it'll hopefully clear the board if you got a bunch of people that can fight. And
So-
granted, what?
I was going to say, especially with all those counters you're putting on them.
Yeah. And when that triggers, you'll get Vorinclex, so you can then, if you want to, tap Vorinclex, right? Have it fight, because it'll be back on the field. Because that fighting is until end of turn.
This triggers and gives all your creatures, and then it flips.
Really?
It's not like an emblem. No.
Oh, that sucks. Never mind. I thought you could do this on Vorinclex then.
I mean, even if you can, man. I mean, like, you're hoping that you have a shit ton of creatures on the board at that point for that fight effect. If you have,
Yeah.
let's say worst case scenario, you have Vorinclex and then the 2 creatures you get from the mill, then you have just 3 really big creatures that'll take out 3 things. And
Yeah.
with 4, sorry, not 4, but with 3 other opponents, it's not really like the best.
Yeah. What does David think?
I think this card is much better than what y'all are giving it credit for, in all fairness.
We'll explain.
So, like Steven had mentioned, it's pretty undercosted, coming in at only 5. If you are playing this as your commander, it's basically just going to dodge commander tax for the rest of the game because its ETB is going to grab you those 2 extra forests. So, like, it kind of pseudo, like, makes sure that you're always going to be able to pay for it. They do go to the hand. However, another thing here being is it says 2 forest cards. It never says basic.
That's true.
So, I don't know. That is something that you should at least kind of consider. I don't know how helpful that's going to be in a mono green deck. And then, like, the backside of this is just a big green stompy deck. I think that because a lot of people are going to discount the front portion of this card, they're probably not going to kill it right away. And this one is very easy to flip. All you need to do is just pay for it. The first ability on this, like the mill 10 cards, what if I'm building this as like super big green stompy stuff and like I'm dropping an Ulamog into play off that and then like another gigantic creature?
I would scoop.
Like I don't know. I think this card is actually much better than what y'all give it credit for. Steven did mention about like the last mode on it too, but the fighting stuff. I think fighting is actually a pretty good mechanic. Green on its own doesn't do a very good job whenever it comes to removing opponent's creatures. And being able to fight, assuming that your stuff is the biggest, which it probably should be in this deck, means you are going to be killing whatever things you need to be killing, and then you're going to push in for damage.
It's true.
You know,
The only downside about fighting though is it sticks with the damage.
I mean, yeah, it'll stick with the damage, but if you just basically wipe their board, it doesn't matter.
True.
True.
oh man, see now I want to build this as secret Eldrazi tribal.
There
Secret.
you go.
It's shh.
Surprise.
But I mean,
All
I
Eldrazi.
David, I'll agree with your point, and this will be the last thing I say on it. I don't. I think when you were trying to talk earlier, maybe I was wrong in assuming this. Like, are you talking about the basic and not basic land thing? Is that like in the 90, like this in the 99 of another deck?
I mean, it is something that you should probably bring up for the 99 of another deck, just because then you'll be playing, hopefully, with other colors too. With it being mono green, the basic versus non-basic forest thing is a little bit more restrictive because there's not really a whole lot of like non-basic forests that are just green.
Yep.
True.
Well, let's move on to the grades. We'll start with David. What are we giving it?
I think I'm going to give this a B. I like the fact that it's front half. I don't think it actually draws as much attention, so I think this one might be more likely to flip.
I was at a C, but after thinking about this being like a secret Eldrazi deck, I'm gonna bump this up to a B. That just sounds really funny. Milling 10 cards and then just throwing an Eldrazi on the field.
I was a C as well, and I'm sticking with it. This is a C for me.
Hunter, I'm
You
sticking
almost
with it.
pulled
I'm
my
a C.
heartstrings there, dude.
The average grade for Vorinclex is going to be a B. And that is going to do it for all of the monocolored creatures from March of the Machine. Comment down below if you agreed with our grades. If you disagree with our grades, let us know as well. We're always interested to see if we've missed anything when we talk about these things. While you're down there, like the video if you liked it, subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. In the description, you'll find links to our social media accounts. That's Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. @GuysThatMagic for each one. Follow us on those to stay up to date with everything else that we're doing. And until the next video, hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Peace.
Bye.
Later.
Bye.